Now, the US President-elect Donald Trump has less than 2 months to finalise his cabinet, and it's reported that he'll nominate Wilbur Ross for Commerce Secretary. Well, like Trump, he is a billionaire, making his fortune by snapping up companies that are close to collapse and then restructuring them. And that's earned him the name King of Bankruptcy. Azhar Sukri takes a closer look.
He's a fan of keeping government small and out of corporate life, and he wants to free America of what he calls the bondage of bad trade agreements. In short, Wilbur Ross and Donald Trump are on the same page when it comes to business, making Ross the lead candidate for the next Commerce Secretary. If chosen and confirmed by Congress, his main job would be to open up overseas markets for US companies and workers, essentially being America's business ambassador to the world. Ross is 78 years old and, according to Fortune magazine, worth nearly $3 billion. He spent nearly a quarter of a century at Rothschild, the globally influential private banking group. In 2000, he bought out the fund he'd started at Rothschild to open up his own private equity firm, W.L. Ross & Company. 2 years later, he established the International Steel Group and bought up an ailing giant of the industry, Bethlehem Steel. In 2004, he merged ISG with India's Mittal Steel and remains a member of the board of its parent company, ArcelorMittal. An explosion at a coal mine operated by one of his companies in 2006 threw his practices into the spotlight. 12 miners were killed. He described it as the worst day of his life and eventually settled all legal claims. Over the years, Ross has invested the old-fashioned way, buying up steel mills, auto parts companies and coal mines on the cheap, making them more efficient and selling them off at a premium. Today, he lives just down the road from one of Trump's retreats in Palm Beach, Florida, and owns more than $100 million worth of art.
And Azhar is in the studio now with us. Azhar, just wondering, he's buying up businesses as they go to collapse and then makes a killing, so to speak. Is he known as a ruthless man?
He is known quite, in the business arena, as quite a ruthless businessman.
Right.
He has actually been criticised for really cutting costs to the bone, cutting wages, cutting staff. But interestingly, those who know him say that he's actually a very personable fellow and that he's very easy to get on with.
And all that money doesn't hurt. Let me ask you, if he's appointed, then what changes could we see?
I think we're going to see some very fundamental changes, as much as anything to the tone of that office. Interestingly, Don Evans, the Commerce Secretary under George W. Bush, very interesting quote from him. He said, it's critically important when you go to other countries that first and foremost you care about them, the citizens of their country. That is a very interesting thing for a Commerce Secretary to say. And contrast that with what Donald Trump and his entourage have been saying, that they want to put America first. And bear in mind that Wilbur Ross has actually been instrumental in shaping a lot of Donald Trump's campaign policies on trade, and very much so. Yeah.
And just quickly, Penny Pritzker, the current Commerce Secretary, how is he different to her? I mean, she's very, very rich too.
Chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese.
But in
yes,
terms
she
of billions,
is very rich. In terms of the billions, yes.
Same.
She has a net worth of about 2.4 billion compared to his 2.9 chump change. But, you know, such a major difference in character. She was a contributor to Obama's campaign. She's very much a free trader. She was instrumental in actually shaping the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which, of course, Trump and Mr. Ross are probably going to tear up as soon as they come into office. So we're going to see a very fundamental difference in approach on trade. Penny Pritzker, of course, also very close to Silicon Valley and part of the new economy as well. Mr. Ross, very old school in comparison.
Oh, okay. Azhar, thank you very much for the analysis.